Good day, Mr. Gorski. Leadership is under attack, which is threatening the effectiveness of businesses. Our intel has identified two agent infiltrators. They fall under the code names of status quo and complacency. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to eradicate these infiltrators as quickly and efficiently as possible. Time is of the essence. You must not fail. Good luck, Ted. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
Hello, and welcome to The Leadership Edge. I am your host, Ted Gorski. Leadership Edge is a show that focuses on leadership topics that are affecting you on a daily basis. And on the show, we kind of talk about some of these ideas and issues, but also give you practical ideas on how to deal with them. Now, today's mission is a little bit different. This is a topic I always get in my coaching sessions. It's, Ted, how do I build better teams? How can I get my teams working at high-performing levels? So today's show is going to be talking about this whole concept of building effective teams. And as a leader, what are the things you need to worry about, be watching out for, to make sure that your team is operating on high-octane levels? But before we start, let's talk about the definition of a high-performing team. A high-performing team focuses on achieving goals, and here's the key thing, while exceeding expectations to achieve superior business results. The goal of high-performing teams is not just to meet the expectations, but we want our teams to exceed them. We have to get their mindset into that whole thought process of what do I need to do to build better results. So today we're really going to talk about you as a leader leading this high-performing team and some of the things that need to be there for this high-performing team to be working at high levels. But let's talk about some of the characteristics of a high-performing team. These are some things that are evident in every high-performing team that I've bumped into, worked with, and coached. First of all, they have effective decision-making. In a high-performing team, the team as a whole helps make decisions. When there are issues, we gather the people together and we kind of be able to hash out the issues, but the team is able to function properly to make effective decisions when issues arise. Secondly, there's open and clear communication. There's nobody who has an agenda here. A high-performing team has transparent communication. They're open and honest in their communication, but yet respectful. Because anytime we're dealing with issues, we need to be able to sometimes have some really tough, critical conversations. And high-performing teams are able to do that. There's a high degree of trust. Trust between the team members. They feel like everyone has their back. No one has an agenda. So that high trust level is there. They are able to manage conflict and manage conflict effectively because in any situation and any team, there is going to be conflict. But high-performing teams know how to deal with it. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this when we start talking about the different stages of team development. We're going to talk a little bit more about this whole thing about conflict. There's clear goals. The team, everyone knows what the goal is. Everyone is crystal clear on what the goal is. So there is nobody who does not understand what the function of the team is, what is the goal we're trying to achieve. There are defined roles on the team. There are some people who may have expertise in one particular area or knowledge in another area. Someone might be better in maybe doing communications where they can do presentations, but everybody has a role and everyone is clear in what their role is. And one of the most important things is a positive atmosphere. High-performing teams have an atmosphere that people enjoy kind of going to work. They enjoy being part of the team. That there's such a positive esprit de corps that people want to be around each other. So this is kind of one of the critical things, and this is creating a positive atmosphere is one of the things that you as a leader really has to take hold of. I think of this as a very delicate egg. And your job is to make sure that that positive atmosphere is always there. So these are some characteristics. But we also are dealing with a group. Now you might have a team, you might say, well, my team's high performing, high functional, it is a team. But a team and a group are a distinction unto themselves. If we're on a group, basically everyone's working independently. They have their tasks and they have their goals and they're kind of separate. Whereas if you're a team member, you're working interdependently. You realize that your function and your tasks are kind of important in the whole process within the team. As a group, maybe you're not involved in the planning process. You are given kind of your marching orders of what you need to do. But whereas in a team, everyone has a little input to the goals. So they have some say in the whole matter. A group member are assigned tasks, maybe from a project manager, maybe the manager themselves. Whereas in a team, they collaborate. They collaborate on who's going to do what. If you're part of a group, you might be focused more on your individual tasks, whereas a team, we're focused on the team task and the team goal. That if someone is falling behind, we're there to help. We're there to maybe pick them up. Because the reality is this, anytime you're working on a team, life gets in the way. And I used to say this to my managers all the time. It's analogy to like a football team, right? Your job is to protect the quarterback, but the person next to you is hurt. Maybe their ankle or their knee is hurt and they're really trying to grit their way through the game. Well, if we're working interdependently, I know that that person may be hurt and I want to maybe help them because maybe they're not in the top of their game. Same thing applies in the office. People go through life. Things happen. They may be not up to snuff. And it's our job, if we're working interdependently, that we pick each other up so that we help get the goal that we're trying to achieve. Psychologically, in terms of a group, I'm really I'm aware of members of the team. I know they're there. But if I'm on a team, I'm emotionally invested. So it means that I care about the person. I care what they may be going through. Just in my previous example, where if someone is going through a life issue, I care about that and I want to help them through that. And lastly, as a group, the individual is accountable. Whereas in a team, we're collectively accountable. So when you're looking at this table, I want you to ask yourself, where do I fit today? Where does my team fit? Am I more of a group? Am I more in the team area? This might give you some ideas why you may not be achieving the goals as much, especially if you're really more as a group versus a team. But as a team, what's important to know is that there are certain development that a team goes through. There are 5 stages of team development, and we're going to go through each of these individually, but to give you just the top level, these are also called the Ings of team development. Forming, storming, norming, performing, and then adjourning. Each team, any team you're on, is going to go through one of these phases. What we're going to do is walk through each of these phases. And as we kind of talk about them, I want you to be thinking about your team. Where are they at right now? Where are they in terms of these 5 stages? Because what's interesting is these stages are dynamic. Your team can bounce around from different stages. And as a leader, we have to be aware of what stage they're in to kind of help them through. So let's start with the first one, forming. In the forming stage, what we're doing here is we're getting the team together for the first time. So there's a high degree of uncertainty. A team member is thinking, okay, what's my purpose? What's the structure of this team? What about the leader who's leading this team? What do I know about them? Other things are about the task. Okay, what are we tasked to do? What do I need to be worried about? And what's also crossing team members' mind are what are the behaviors? What are these behaviors that I think I'm going to need to do in order to be successful on this team? So as you can imagine, when they're forming for the first time, they're getting to know other team members, there's a lot of uncertainty, kind of walking on eggshells, if you look at it from that perspective. So that's kind of the forming stage. Then we kind of go into what's called the storming stage. And you can think of the storming stage as conflict or disagreement. The storming stage is when there's disagreement on a topic, disagreement on approach, but this is where we're starting to get into the really conflict part of a team. At this point, productivity is stagnant. It kind of stays kind of where it's at. It's kind of at a status quo because what's happening is the team's trying to process this conflict. What you also have is this communication breakdown. There's not a lot of communication because what's happening is the team's trying to process through conflict, and there's some styles that don't want to be dealing with conflict. So as a result, there's a breakdown in communication among team members. There's an inability to solve the problem, and they may not even know what the exact problem is. So you can see what's happening here is that think of a team as just kind of going in a circle. There's negative reactions are beginning to develop. Negative reactions that maybe someone says, this team member is not listening to me. This team member seems to want to take their ideas and always run with them. So there's beginning to fester some negative reactions. There's a drop in morale. What ends up happening is people start feeling like, I'm not being listened to, and what am I doing here? The cohesiveness is breaking apart. So you can kind of see what's happening here in regards to this. The storming stage is one that a team is going to move in and out of consistently in any type of stage. So just realize when you solve it, great, you may get to the next stage, but just realize they could bounce back here. Now, what's interesting about the storming stage is that once you are able to solve the problem, and this is what you as a leader need to do, is find out what the actual problem is. What's the issue that's stopping the team? You might be able to facilitate the resolution is, and it's what's the old hockey stick analogy, right? Where if you picture a hockey stick, the blade is kind of stagnant, but then when you solve the actual conflict, productivity spikes up like the shaft of a hockey stick. That's our role as a leader in trying to solve. But let's say you're able to solve it. There's also a stage called the norming stage. And this is where trust begins to develop. This is when people begin to trust each other. What we're doing is building social behaviors that we're finding as acceptable on the team. We're building those standards that we're expecting of each other, which leads to more commitment. Each team member starts to realize what kind of behaviors are important, and then commitment engages even higher. We think of we instead of I. So now the team is thinking about collectively us. What are we doing to achieve the goal? So there now becomes not a personal agenda, but a team agenda. Productivity is moderately high because what's happening is we're accepting the standards and behaviors, we're buying into it, there's more commitment, and the actual productivity goes up to higher levels. And in this stage, there's conflict avoidance. We're trying to not have any conflict because we want to maintain that high level of productivity. So the norming stage is real important because this is where the social standards and behaviors are expected are developed. And this is where you as a leader can kind of help devise those, because this is kind of the social contract that we're going to hold all the team members to. Then there's the performing stage. And when we get into the performing stage, there's no longer any conflict. What we're doing now is really starting to work toward the goal, work toward the task. And what members are doing now is working together. They're working interdependently on achieving that goal. We are committed to the team mission. When we're performing at these levels, now what's happening is we're starting to buy into what we're trying to achieve. And as a leader, your job is to always make sure that that particular goal is always stated of what we're trying to achieve. Morale is high because now there's a sense of pride. We are working together, and there's a sense of pride of us working together to reach that goal. We're trying to achieve that goal. And if we're working well together, this is where people enjoy kind of that whole concept like we talked earlier about having a positive environment. And communication is open because now we're performing at high levels. And people feel free to have transparent and open communication. And mutual respect is developed. So you can see when we hit this particular stage, the team is now functioning at high levels. But just be careful as a leader to understand that if a conflict arises, it can kick the team out of this stage and bring them back to the storming stage, where we have that's where the issues will occur. We hit the status quo. So your job as a leader is to keep your ear to the ground on this, to make sure that we're always trying to be performing at high levels. The last stage is what's called adjourning. Now, you may think of, okay, that means that we're breaking up the team. I don't look at it from that perspective. Adjourning to me means we accomplished a task. And now it's kind of like almost like the celebratory stage. But I'm going to tell you, this stage is often missed with the leaders I work with. But let's talk about the adjourning. The goal's been achieved. So we hit the goal. We achieved it. We hit some level of success. And now what we're beginning to do is maybe disassociate, not so much from the team, but maybe the task. And saying, okay, we accomplished that. So now we're kind of stepping away from achieving that. And there's a feeling of fulfillment. There's a feeling of fulfillment from the team that we achieved it. We made it work. We got through the barriers. We got through the issues. And we actually accomplished what we set out to do. Now, your job as a leader at this point is facilitate a positive closure to that project. This is what I alluded to earlier. What I find with most leaders today is that they don't take the time to celebrate success. Let me repeat that. They don't take the time to celebrate success. When a team performs, achieves a task, is successful, their particular reward is congratulations, here's another project. For me, back in corporate, what I would do is I would have a pizza party. And I wanted everyone to celebrate, and I would ask, why do you think we did so well on this project? What can we do to reproduce that in the next project? To me, I wanted them to celebrate. Just like a sports team, when they win the championship, they celebrate that particular accomplishment. Imagine if a team won a championship and just said, okay, we're going home. No, you have to celebrate that. And I say, as a leader, take the time to do that. Nothing big, it doesn't have to be, but I will tell you, as a leader, when I celebrated and had the team celebrate, it was a learning experience to say, what can we do to be better in the next project as a team? I want you to be really thinking about that, because celebration is part of the goal. So these are the kind of 5 phases that your team is going to be going through. And I want you to be kind of looking at it today and figuring out where your team is on those particular phases. Because here's the goal we're trying to achieve, is team cohesiveness. Yes, we're trying to be high performers and work well together, but a cohesive team is a team that works in unity and has satisfactory emotional needs met by the team members. This is when you have a cohesive team where you know the team members are bonding. And that's our goal and what we're trying to achieve. Because here are some positive effects of having that. There's more optimism on the team. More optimism, you get better ideas. Less anxiety and tension, less stress. There's improved decision making when there's team cohesiveness. There's more open communication, and overall, there's increased productivity. So cohesiveness is what we're also trying to achieve here with your team. How do we get them to be lockstep and work with each other more effectively? And here on this particular graphic is an important thing. The only thing I want to highlight is really look at the far right-hand column. When you look at the ones that are green in the aqua, that's when there's low cohesiveness. So you can see what happens when there's low cohesiveness. The amount of productivity is either low or moderate. But if you look on the left-hand side on the burgundy and more of the purplish, you'll see that when there's high cohesiveness, even though there's low norms, which means maybe we didn't define them properly, we still have moderate productivity. The magic becomes when you tie in high cohesiveness with the high norms that you set, high productivity norms and expectations, that's where the magic happens. That's what we want to try to get to on that level. And your job as a leader is to try to build that, is to try to get to that higher level in terms of cohesiveness, because that's where the magic is. So, why do teams fail? Kind of winding down a little bit, let's talk about some of the things I want you to watch for as a leader. There's lack of guidance or vision. Maybe we haven't communicated properly what our vision is. There's mistrust. Maybe there's mistrust that started building within the team. That's a cancer. Maybe we need to find out where that's starting. Unclear expectations. I was coaching a leader yesterday, and we were talking about this. She was talking about one of the person on the team just wasn't kind of up to snuff. And I said, are they clear on their expectations? And she was honest and said, well, I haven't really done a great job there. I said, all right, what do we need to do? Okay, so just realize if we have unclear expectations, that can cause teams to fail. There's fear of change. There are some team members that are going to embrace change. There'll be others who don't. We have to help those people who don't embrace change to help them through. And lastly, the one thing I've seen a lot is rewarding toxic people. You know, I've seen some leaders who give, toxic people. When I say toxic, these are people who maybe have a bad attitude or have bad behaviors. But what's happening is we have leaders who are rewarding that. Now think about it. If you reward that, you're going to get more of that. So that would cause a team to fail because other team members who may be following norms are going, hey, what's going on here? This person's getting all the rewards. Is that what I need to do? So do not reward toxic behavior. It will cause your team to fail. Finally, the last thing I want to touch upon here is what I call secrets of great leaders. This is about 8 things I want you to be thinking about that could impact team performance. And as we kind of go through these, I want you to be able to look at yourself and say, okay, am I doing these things? And am I doing these at the highest of levels? First one is open communication, making sure your communication is open and transparent. No hidden agendas. Second, are you listening well? Okay, listening to what's being said, but also the meaning of what's happening. Thirdly, having a sense of humor. What's really interesting is when I've kind of researched the great leaders from sports all the way to business leaders, one of the things that's common is that a sense of humor humanizes a leader. So where are you with a sense of humor? Are you humanized so people can connect with you? Powerful language. And when I talk about powerful language, it's more positive, engaging language, right? There's not a problem, there's a challenge, right? It's using that powerful language successfully. One of the things we'll be doing in a future show is talking about coaching and talking about how to have more powerful language. So we'll be touching more of that when we do that mission on that show. The importance of we, always communicating we're in this together. Always communicating that it's the goal of the team that we're trying to achieve. Great leaders are great teachers. It's your ability to help people get through barriers. Maybe help them get through issues that they didn't think they were able to do, but great leaders help teach others. That's your goal, and that's kind of your purpose. How well are you teaching what you need to teach the people that are on your team? Understanding individual capabilities. There are some people who can do certain things well, other people can do other things well. Your job is to try to find those hidden nuggets in people so that you put them in positions of success on the team. Do not put someone who doesn't like to do presentations as a presenter. They're not going to go well, right? Look at their capabilities and put them in positions to succeed. And goal-oriented. It's all about setting the right proper goals. It's about making sure that people have personal goals that they're always trying to move towards. So in wrapping up show today, this is really about having you look at your teams differently and saying to yourself, what am I doing to either help my team be high performing? Are there certain things I'm doing that's holding my team from being where they need to be? So your mission, if you choose to accept it today, is to look at some of the factors we talked about, to see what you may be doing that may be stopping your team from being as high performing as they need to be. Look at how you're attributing to that, like we talked about today in today's show, and what do you need to do to up your game to make sure that you're building a highly functionable team. So in closing today's show, if there's anything we can do to help you with your leadership needs, please reach out to us at www.getYourEdge.com. We'd love to have a conversation with you to see what we can do to help you with your leadership needs. So again, my name is Ted Gorski. Thank you for watching today's show and seeing you next time so you get your next mission at the Leadership Edge.